Japan is still a stupidly popular location to visit, even with the dark underbelly of Japan finally being exposed on translated Twitter. I'll make a video about that later, but the TLDR is that all the xenophobia on Twitter that's normally hidden behind a wall of Japanese has been translated, and the global Twitterverse is getting a first-hand taste of the insanity that is Japanese netizens. Anyway, back to it. But I've been living in Japan for about 10 years now. And in those 10 years, I've learned something very important about Japan. And that's when not to travel here. But saying when not to travel to Japan does sound a little bit peculiar. I don't think there's a bad time to travel to Japan. I think there are off-peak times to travel to Japan, when generally your travel experience in Japan will be a little more streamlined, one would say. And then you have the peak times to travel to Japan, when tourism, both international and domestic, or weather conditions stop you from having maybe the most smooth time in Japan. But even in the bad times to visit Japan, you can still have the greatest adventure while you're here. You just need to tweak those travel plans just a little bit. And I'm going to show you how. Golden Week is a chain of Japanese holidays leading from about late April to early May. And there is nothing golden about this week. If you're trying to have the smoothest time traveling to Japan, this week should probably be avoided. This is one of Japan's major holidays, and if you're a Japan lover, you've probably heard about Golden Week before and the perils that lie within it. But what you perhaps don't know is that every single salaryman is basically traveling somewhere in Japan. People in Japan work extremely hard. Too hard, one might say. A little bit performative in the way that they're working, one might say. So because of that, Golden Week has been sort of established. It's a week-long holiday where you must take off work. And if you don't take off the actual week of Golden Week, you have to make that up sometime later in the year by taking those holidays. That is how serious the Japanese government is about making sure their employees are actually taking holidays. And that's great. It's really good. We love to see people resting. But for you, an international person coming to Japan to travel and have a good time during this time, it is really difficult because once again, everyone is traveling. The worst thing about traveling at this time is that two of the major things you need to survive in Japan do get more expensive, and that is food and shelter. Hotels become absorbently more expensive. We're talking almost double the price. Also, food becomes more expensive. Restaurants will have special Golden Week deals, but these are just normal deals you can find on a day-to-day basis. Only because it's Golden Week, it's become more expensive. For a lot of hotels, for a lot of restaurants, this is the time period to make a little bit more money than usual. As we know, the domestic travel market isn't the greatest all year round, and a lot of these hotels and local restaurants are only surviving on the dime of international customers. So during Golden Week, they take this opportunity to raise the prices just a little bit to combat not only the increased amount of people who are going to be visiting their locations, but also make a little bit of profit on the side. I'm not mad at it. I'm not angry they're making a little bit of profit. While food and hotels have become a little bit more expensive, luckily the Shinkansen stays the exact same price. Unluckily though, you have to book the Shinkansen weeks in advance because it sells out extremely quickly. If you are traveling around the first or the last days of Golden Week, you need to book that Shinkansen as soon as possible. It sells out so incredibly quickly. And if you don't have a seat, you can find yourself standing up the entire Shinkansen trip. As someone who has made that mistake and had to stand up for like 4 hours on the Shinkansen, it gets old really fast. Most of the stores, the activities, the adventures, the things you want to do in Japan during Golden Week are still going to be open. If anything, they might have extra hours because of the amount of people who are going to travel to those locations, so you should be fine. The only issue is, if you want to go to a little mom and pop store, or you had your eye on like a tiny little cafe or kisaten, there is a chance that that location will be closed during Golden Week. And there's also a bigger chance that nowhere online will this be written. You'll get to the store and there'll be a little paper note on the store saying, the store is closed. It happened to me a couple of years ago. We were traveling around and there was a nice little pancake store I wanted to check out. We got there, lo and behold, the store was closed. I checked online, I checked their website, nowhere did it say that this store was closing during Golden Week. There was just a little paper sign on the door writing down the dates that they'd be open during Golden Week. And unluckily for me, the day that I arrived, it wasn't open. It is what it is, shogunate, you know. I'll go back again one day in the future. But what if you have no choice? Not everyone has the flexibility to travel whenever they want. So what if you have to travel during Golden Week? What do you do? If you are traveling internationally, you're probably doing this anyway, but book everything early. Book everything as early as you possibly can. I would say book the hotels first and then the Shinkansen. Even if the Shinkansen is packed and there are no reserved seats you can take, you can still gamble for a free seat or a Jiyuseki, and even if you can't get that, you can stand on the Shinkansen to your destination. And when you are booking the Shinkansen, if it's possible, book yourself a reserved seat. Splurge a little bit, especially during Golden Week, because if not, you're going to be stuck in free seat hell. Which is where everyone is basically going home or going somewhere or going out, which means every single free seat is going to be taken. If you have small kids, if you're someone who can't stand for that long, definitely book a reserved seat. Do not gamble on the free seat. It is not worth having to stand for 6-7 hours going from point A to point B because you booked a little bit late. Good luck out there. Try and avoid the golden route, which is of course Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto, with sometimes dipping your toes into Nara. I'm not entirely sure why, but the golden route becomes extremely packed during Golden Week. Something to do with them both being labeled golden? Who knows? Try and visit some locations off of the beaten path. During the last Golden Week, I took myself to Fukui. I got a Fukui vlog pending. It turns out Fukui is pretty interesting, so I'll have that coming out in the next few weeks or so. And Fukui was majestic. The town was basically empty. It was really easy to get from A to B. I booked my Shinkansen ticket to come home on the day I was coming home and managed to get myself a reserved ticket with no one next to me. Not entirely sure why, but Fukui just seems to be a place that people forgot existed for a while, so no one was traveling there during Golden Week. It's pretty good. And there are other really good areas that you can find just a stone's throw away from Tokyo if you're traveling during Golden Week. If you are living and working in Japan or plan to eventually live and work in Japan, these rules also apply to you. Try and avoid the golden route, book early, book hotels early, but if you can, talk to your boss and see if you can delay your holiday. Work the week of Golden Week and take the week after off. A week or two after Golden Week, there is a massive lull in tourism where basically everyone is back at work, no one is traveling, all the prices come down again, and it just becomes far easier to travel. And if you're an international traveler traveling to Japan and you have to travel during Golden Week or around Golden Week, I would say arrive about the end of Golden Week and you have like 2 or 3 days in Tokyo where it's still kind of chill, people like traveling around, it's not that bad. But after that, everyone has kind of gone back to work, so you're free to travel Japan unhindered by the wave of domestic travelers.
New Year's Eve. The countdown descends. Bell rings.
People think that New Year's is a magical time to visit Japan, because it kind of is. Visually, it's amazing. It's a very different style of culture than what you're used to in New Year's. There are traditional Japanese decorations and customs that happen during the period of New Year's. The only issue is, everything is closed for about 4 to 7 days. New Year's in Japan is basically what Christmas is in Western countries. It's a time where everyone takes a few days off work to go back home and spend time with family and friends and loved ones. But because of that, a lot of places in Japan just aren't open during New Year's. Many restaurants and small shops and attractions and businesses all closed down for the period of New Year's. It really caught me off guard the first time I was living in Japan as a student, and I was traveling around during New Year's and I realized nothing was open. I messaged my friend to see what was going on, and he basically informed me that New Year's was a time where everyone was traveling back to see their families, so pretty much nothing was open, which absolutely blew my mind. It was really entertaining as well because I was living in Saitama at the time, so walking around Saitama during this New Year's period, the vibe was completely different. The streets were normally just a little bit empty, but now they seem to be a little more bustling, a little busier, because it appears that a lot of people had traveled back to Saitama from the various locations they'd moved to visit their grandparents, their families, their children, and it completely shifted the vibe of the city. It was very entertaining. Main Tokyo, however, the vibe can get very quiet. New Year's can be bubbled down to a big domestic holiday rush similar to Golden Week, only a little more condensed and I would say a little busier depending on the routes you want to take when traveling to Japan. Domestic flights especially get booked out really early and every single flight is basically packed as people are coming in and out of Tokyo. One of the things to be very, very wary of is that a lot of shrines at this time are going to be absolutely packed packed. There is something called Hatsumode, which is the first shrine visit of the year. So around January 1st at midnight to about the 3rd or 4th of Japan, most big popular shrines get really crowded. And I mean really crowded. We're talking shoulder to shoulder, you can't get into the shrine. It's going to take you a very long time to get from the outside of the shrine to the actual shrine itself to do the whole first prayer of the year. You may have to wait hours to get into the shrine itself, and if you're someone who doesn't really want to be standing up for that long, maybe skip the shrine visit until a few days after the new year. If you don't mind the hustle and bustle, you don't mind waiting in very long lines to see a very interesting cultural experience, I would say check out Hatsumode. It is very cool. The wave of people coming into the shrine is a little bit scary, but it is very exciting. And shrines during this period have a festival vibe about them. You got food stands, you got music playing, you got monks coming to and from, blessing the crowds and people at the gates. It's pretty sick. I've done it basically every year that I've lived in Japan, but I don't always go to the big popular shrines. I sometimes just go to the local shrines that are near my house because they're a little emptier and the local vibe is a little, friendlier. And you feel like you're part of the community when you can go to these local shrines, meet the people and tell them, no, I'm not a tourist. I literally live around the corner. If you're a first-time traveler to Japan, this period might seem a little bit inconvenient because I know that you want to go check out the big shrines, you want to check out Asakusa, you want to travel pretty seamlessly. So it might be difficult for you to have the best time in Japan around New Year's just because it's going to be a little hard for you to get from A to B to C. But what if you got no choice? What if your only time off is the New Year's and you have to make these days count? You got to change your way of thinking during this period of time. This is no longer a tourist trip to Japan. This is a cultural exchange between you and Japan. Instead of booking a hotel for that New Year period, book an apartment. Spend some time with your family in said apartment. And if you're here for the New Year's period, go with the flow. Go with the culture, do what the locals do. You will have a grand old time. If you're a solo traveler, maybe look into doing some kind of a homestay. A homestay around New Year's is going to be ridiculously fun. They'll drag you along to the shrine for the New Year celebrations. You'll probably end up meeting a bunch of family members and having a great dinner. And also, if you're studying Japanese, you'll really be putting your language abilities to the test, meeting various family members from various generations. The 30th to around the 2nd or the 3rd are when things seem to be at their busiest. That's when stores are going to be closed down, when people are going to be spending time with their family and friends. That's when things might be a little bit difficult for you to travel around. But after that, Japan is basically open for business once again. So coming after those dates, you're not going to have an issue. And Japan will still have that New Year's vibe about it. Unlike Golden Week, if you're traveling during New Year's, stay in the cities. Stay in the cities. You don't want to go to the countryside during Golden Week. Everything is going to be closed in the countryside. In the cities, it is a little easier. Most people who come during New Year's say they don't really experience that much disruption because they're only really going to the main tourist locations. They're only really going to like the big events that are going to be open no matter what time of year it is. If you're heading to the countryside during New Year's, you're gonna find a lot of paper signs on doors and restaurants and locations saying that the place has been closed for the New Year's period. I wouldn't say the New Year's period has to be avoided. I would say you have to curb your plans just a little bit depending on what you want to do. And by curb your plans just a little bit, I mean be careful of shrines and places of worship because they're gonna be packed. Hold on, serious question. Have you ever been to hell? July and August is the most physically uncomfortable time to be in Japan. It is a time so dreadful that me, after 10 years living in Japan, I dread the summer every single year. I pray for the sweet embrace of winter when summer hits. It is awful. Just awful. The problem with Japanese summer is that it's not hot. It's aggressively hot. It's aggressively hot and humid. It is so sticky, so uncomfortable that occasionally it feels like you'll never have comfort again. It's not a period of time that I would recommend for doing big, long travels in Japan. It's kind of awful. Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, the locations that you want to visit often push past 30 degrees Celsius every single year. And I know I'm gonna get comments from people saying that their country is hotter or the location they've lived in for all their life is warmer or more uncomfortable, and that might be the case, but you're used to living in that climate. coming to Japan, things are a little bit different. It's not just a case of my city is hotter than Japan. Japan is hot and humid and uncomfortable and busy, and you're gonna be walking 10,000 steps a day easily. Easily. There's so many comments online of people saying they came to Japan and walked easily 10,000 steps a day, because that's what you do in Japan. You walk, you walk, you walk, you check some stuff out, you jump on a train, you walk again. That's Japan. You're walking more than you think you're going to be walking, especially in a city like Kyoto. Kyoto's all walking. You might jump on a bus, but especially now in 2026, those buses are packed. So to get from A to B to C, it's quicker to walk. And although it might be quicker to walk, is it more comfortable to walk when temperatures are hitting 40 degrees Celsius? I don't think so. But what other choice do you have? The humidity is brutal, and the heat waves that Japan has been experiencing over the last couple years don't seem to be stopping. It has become increasingly common to get weather warnings every single year around the July-August period. We're talking storm warnings, heat waves, and messages from the local government over the loudspeaker reminding people to 1. Check on their loved ones, especially if they're elderly, and 2. Stay hydrated. A lot of people do get sick around the summertime. People catch like a weird summer cold, and it's because they're in the heat, sweating through their outfits, getting onto the train where the AC is blasting, freezing themselves, and then heading right back outside to sweat in the humidity. That constant change of temperature is not good for your body, but sadly it's everywhere. You enter a store, you're blasted with cold air. You leave the store, you're blasted with a wall of humidity. It's very, very uncomfortable for everyone visiting and living in Japan. Yeah, Japanese summer can be it can be really bad. But if you have to visit during the Japanese summertime, it's kind of sick. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of cool. Japanese summer, while the hottest thing known to man, is also the hottest thing known to man. Firework festivals in Japan around this time are some of the coolest things you will ever fucking see. They are phenomenal. They are absolutely amazing. It's worth the summertime heat if you can find yourself at a Japanese firework festival. Now, don't get me wrong, there's also problems with Japanese firework festivals. About 1 billion people will go to the festival to watch it, and it could take you literally hours to get home just because of how difficult it is to move during these crowds. Also, crowds moving really slowly, the stations around the firework festival really packed. It's generally kind of difficult to get home after the festivals, but the festivals are really, really cool. The energy is really fun as well. The people are really nice. It's basically day drinking until nighttime, and then you start night drinking and watching the fireworks. And if you don't drink, there are soft drinks, there's ice cream, there's snacks, there's refreshments. It's a very, very cool vibe, and the fireworks are always really worth the wait. Sightseeing in Japan during the summertime can feel like peak cardio. You're gonna be walking a lot, and it's gonna be very warm and uncomfortable. But Japan has invented some stuff to keep you cool during the summertime. There are these cool tech vests you can wear, which are these like cool outfits that keep your body at a kind of like okay temperature while you're dealing with the summer. There's cold sprays, cooling sheets. There's a bunch of different cooling products you can buy and try out during the disgusting summer periods. I would say take yourself Don Quixote, buy a bunch of the cooling stuff, just see what works for you and use them during the entirety of your stay. If you are coming from a cooler country with a cooler climate, the humidity will hit hard. Stay hydrated. Take regular breaks. Really plan out your trip. Don't push yourself too hard. You might have to take 3 showers a day. That's fine. Take your time during these summertime trips and just generally have a good time.
Oh no, he's hot!
We just covered July and August. We're still in August, and there's a good reason for that. And that's Obon. Obon is basically Golden Week, but this time it's hot and humid and everyone's sweating. Obon is another Japanese holiday period that catches a lot of tourists off guard. It's basically the Japanese summer holiday, and similar to Golden Week, it's a time where people will travel back home to see their family and friends. It's basically a massive Japanese summer holiday homecoming palooza. Everyone's traveling home, everyone's trying to get back to see their family. I believe at this time you're visiting the graves of your loved ones as well. Jordan, fact check me on that.
Nice.
Thank you. And so because of that, people are traveling home back to their loved ones. This is very similar to Golden Week. Hotels fill up really quickly and the prices are basically doubled. The Shinkansen fills up really quickly, although the price stays the same, and domestic flights become basically unbookable because everyone is trying to get back home. So why bring it up a second time if it's basically the same as Golden Week? Well, the problem is this time it's hot. It's hot Golden Week. While Golden Week is an annoying time to visit, it is still kind of manageable. It's not insane to get around on trains. I don't mind standing for 3 hours to go from point A to point B. However, during Obon, during peak summertime, where the heat is disgusting and people are cooking on trains, I don't want to be packed between 20 different salarymen going home to visit their families. It is horrendous. And for those that aren't going home, they're just hanging out in Tokyo. So you have intense humidity, packed trains, crowded attractions, and all of your accommodation is now more expensive. You want to eat dinner? You want to have a delicious sushi dinner somewhere in Tokyo? I hope you've booked, because if that chain is popular, you're gonna be waiting a really long time. It kind of sucks. Come here, because this is important. In all the online discussion about visiting Japan, August is constantly hailed as the worst time to visit Japan, hands down. It's busy, it's hot, it's humid, accommodations are more expensive, it's hard to get bookings at places, attractions are really full. It's horrendous. No one should be visiting Japan during August. During every other period I've mentioned, and every other period I will mention for the rest of this video, a reason why you might want to visit Japan during this time. August, I have nothing. It's horrible. The only reason I can think of is a Japanese Matsuri. A nice little Japanese summer festival during August would be a reason to visit. However, you can still see those festivals in June or July. August is horrible. You can come and visit during that time, but let me tell you, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be so rough. Typhoon season is the absolute worst. Typhoon season is so horrible. And the worst thing about it is that it's unpredictable. You can't predict when a big old typhoon's gonna swoop in and just ruin your plans. And this isn't just for like domestic or international travelers who want to like travel around Japan and have a grand old time. This is literally for everyone. People who live here, people that work here, people that have projects they're trying to run in various parts of Japan. A typhoon will just rock up and destroy any plans you were making. All of them. And the worst thing is, sometimes the typhoon will get right in there and everyone's freaking out and you're like, oh no, we have to cancel plans. And you start canceling plans and rebooking stuff and rescheduling things. And then the typhoon goes, nope, and just darts away and just goes somewhere else instead. But you've already rebooked everything. I'm telling you, what an awful time to visit Japan. It's just horrendous. It's so annoying. Every week is a gamble. Like every single week, you are gambling that a typhoon doesn't hit. September is also still just a little bit hot and a little bit humid. It's not as bad as August, but you mix in typhoons into the equation, and it's basically worse. It's basically worse. Typhoon season in Japan peaks around late summer. This might change, global warming, El Nino's coming in, we've basically fucked up the entire planet. Who knows, typhoon season could suddenly be all year round. But for the time being, it peaks around late summer. Typhoon season affects basically the whole of Japan, but it especially affects the south of Japan. So if you are traveling down to Okinawa during this time, or Kyushu, or somewhere around the southern part of Japan, your trip could be very negatively impacted by a sudden typhoon. And as I said before, it's very unpredictable. Who knows when the typhoon is going to hit? Who knows if a typhoon even is going to hit? Your entire trip to Japan could be a-okay typhoon free, and then as you're leaving, one might arrive. As I said, it's kind of a gamble. Everyone describes traveling to Japan in September as a gamble, especially if you're going to the southern states or to Okinawa. But what if you have to travel to Japan in September? What if you got no choice, or it's your birthday, or you just really want to travel to Japan during the month of September? You might as well come. As I said, it's a gamble. Who knows? I can't predict the typhoons. No one can predict the typhoons. One might not appear for the entire month of September, and then suddenly there's one during the end. One typhoon might appear during the first week of September, and then nothing for the rest of the week. One might appear and then just vanish. No one knows. No one can tell you. And so I would say, If you have to come during September, just come. Adjust your plans on the fly. If a typhoon does arrive one day, do something local, do something in the area. Also, Japan is kind of built to deal with typhoons at this stage. Things don't really close unless the typhoon has hit and it's very, very strong. There are still people riding the trains and going into the office with a typhoon overhead. Yeah, it's bad, but it's not as bad as you think. We had a typhoon recently, and the night before it hit, it was raining, it was windy. The morning when the typhoon was overhead, the weather was really bad, it was very windy, it was very rainy, and then suddenly, by about 1 o'clock, there was no typhoon. It was a great sunny day. It was still kind of windy. It was still very windy. It was still very, very windy. But everything was running. If I was visiting Japan during this time, it wouldn't be that much of an issue to move my morning plans to the afternoon. As I said, it's a gamble, and if you think it's one worth taking, Japan's waiting for you in September. Them dice loaded and ready. You cannot have a list talking about the worst times to visit Japan without talking about sakura season. Cherry blossom season only gets an honorable mention for me because I don't think it's a bad time to visit Japan. I just think if you want to check out the cherry blossoms, that's the time you have to go. You have to go during cherry blossom season, otherwise there aren't going to be any cherry blossoms, are there? See, we're locking in, we're really thinking about this. When it comes to cherry blossom season, hotels aren't really affected. The prices are going to be the prices they always are. The trains aren't going to be any fuller, the Shinkansens aren't going to be any busier. The only thing that's going to be busy are the parks that have the cherry blossoms. And that's it. But that's what you're here to see. Unlike a lot of these other timings, cherry blossom season is just a matter of preference. If you want to see the cherry blossoms, come during cherry blossom season. But I would say, once you're here for cherry blossom season, the only thing you need to do is avoid the most popular locations where people go and see cherry blossoms, and you'll be fine. A couple years ago, I traveled to a random park up in Saitama because I heard there were cherry blossoms there. And there were cherry blossoms there. We had a little picnic, met some of the locals, and just kind of chilled. It was still a festival cherry blossom season vibe, but there wasn't a million people shaking trees and trying to get the perfect cherry blossom picture for Instagram. I wouldn't say cherry blossom season is a bad time to visit Japan, which is why it's only an honorable mention. If you really do want to experience cherry blossom season in Japan, you want to do Hanami, I would say go to a location that isn't super popular with both domestic and internationals. Those locations are constantly being double dipped, so they're always going to be really busy. And if you are really curious about Hanami, cherry blossom seasons, the history of it, the best place to visit, I made a video a couple of years ago about that exact topic. Check it out right now. Now let's be clear, there is no perfect time to visit Japan. I don't think there's really a bad time to visit Japan, except August. August sucks. It's more about planning ahead, finding the best time for you to visit Japan, and then tweaking your plans depending on what is happening domestically. And if you do want the smoothest first time trip to Japan and you're going during one of these peak seasons, it might make sense to go back in this video, find that timing, and work out how you can have the best time in Japan by tweaking your plans just a little bit. But guys, I'm gonna love you and leave you there. If you have a little bit more time, I got a video right here. It's about people stealing little bits of coffee and then getting thrown in prison for it. Yeah, I'm deadly serious. But guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. A lot of my viewers actually aren't subscribed yet, which is absolutely insane to me, guys. What are you waiting for? And I'll see you in the next one. See ya.